Hello everyone, hope everyone is doing well tonight and getting those tech reads in. This is Ryan here and I'm excited to talk about a new book I just finished. Published by Packt Books. It's written by Mihaela Roxana Ghidersa, I believe it's pronounced. If not pronounced correctly, I apologize, but this is software architecture for web developers. Very interesting topic. Now this is a great introductory read on what software architecture can loosely be defined as. Now I say loosely because, as you'll read in this book, defining software architecture is actually very difficult, as there are many different interpretations floating around out there. So yeah, this book by no means covers them all. But instead it gives us a good general overview of many of the ideas and patterns that you'll see and come across while learning to become a software architect. I feel it should be said that this is a very quick read, coming in at under 100 pages. You could read this book easily in a couple days, which I think is actually beneficial, and it's a good point. It's a good you can get that knowledge in real quick. And I just want to mention, though it might be light on the pages, and though there's not many pages, it definitely makes up for it in the density of the material that you'll be reading. It's good subject matter for sure. The cover really explains it best. It says, an introductory guide for developers striving to take the first steps towards software architecture. Now I mention this because if you are looking for a book that is going to show you the implementation details of an architectural pattern, or you're trying to get very technical books, then this book is definitely not going to be the kind of book you're looking for. This book is more for beginners and individuals such as myself with no real software architectural experience. It's basically for people who are just seeking to learn a bit about software architecture, what it is and what software architectures do. And that's great. I think that's a great point in the book. It's a good overview. I also like that this book is broken up into three distinct sections, 3 parts. Part 1 is it's called Getting a Grasp on Architecture, and it gives you the whys of why the role is so important, especially on large-scale projects. This part also gets into some of the fun stuff. I thought, the diving into some of the common architectural patterns you'll come across. Patterns like layered pattern, I've never heard of it before. The client-server pattern, which is very popular. I'm sure most of us heard of that. The microservices pattern, another very popular one. This is just to name a few. There's definitely some more patterns talked about in here. So this book discusses many of those things as well. It gets into some additional things in section 1. Another part I really liked was it talked about some of the common myths about architecture. So I found that very interesting as well. The part 2 of the book gets into the types of software architects that there are, and talks about how you can leverage your soft skills to become the best software architect or the best team leader possible. Part 3 is probably one of the most relevant parts. It's about how to go from developer to architect. Now I say it's probably the most relevant because there's probably a lot of us out there who are curious about, what steps one should take to begin migrating our experience in such a way as to be able to make what could be considered, a drastic change become more manageable and more of a smooth transitional change into the architect role. So I think part 3 is a good chapter, a good section of a good part of the book. It discusses those types of things. So as you see, though this might be a thin book, Software Architecture for Web Developers is jam-packed with just about everything you would hope to learn about in an introductory book on the subject. And I think anyone who is interested in learning more will enjoy this book. It's definitely a good book. It's well written, it's easy to follow, and it briefly covers many of the roles and responsibilities, giving us insight into like the thought process, thought process of being a good software architect. Like, what is, like, if you're an architect, a software architect, like, what kinds of things do you have to think about? Like, what kind of things do you have to plan? What kind of things are on, like, a software architect's, job role description, I guess you could say. And this really gets into all those types of things. So it's what I found very interesting about this book. It's, like I said, it's a light book, doesn't take long to read, and it gives you a great overview of the subject. So I think if you're someone who's interested in learning more about the subject, then you should definitely grab a copy and learn what you can about software architecture for web developers. Great book by Mihaela Roxana Ghidersa. Ghidersa. Sorry about that. It's a odd pronunciation. I'm not good at pronouncing names. So yeah, definitely. Packt Books does it again. Brings us another great book. Thank you.